Hi, welcome to today's Fall of Anne Boleyn, a countdown event, looking at the events that led up to the tragic execution of Queen Anne Boleyn on the 19th of May 1536. If you don't know me, I'm Claire Ridgway. I run the ambolynpolescom website, which I started 10 years ago now, and I'm also the author of The Fall of Anne Boleyn, a countdown, which has inspired these videos. I go into a lot more detail in my book on the events that led up to Queen Anne Boleyn's execution. Okay, on this day in history, the 6th of May 1536, 4 days after her arrest, Queen Anne Boleyn may have written a letter to her husband, King Henry VIII, may being the operative word. She was, of course, at this time imprisoned in the Tower of London, and the letter has been given the title, possibly added by Thomas Cromwell, to the King from the Lady in the Tower. In this letter, Queen Anne emphasises her innocence. She asks her husband, the King, to let not any light fancy or bad counsel of mine enemies withdraw your princely favour from me. And she also asks for a lawful trial and puts her present predicament, her imprisonment, her fall, down to the King's affection for Jane Seymour, his affection settling on Jane, who of course was one of her ladies in waiting. Now I'm going to read this letter to you in full because it's definitely worth reading. Sir, your Grace's displeasure and my imprisonment are things so strange unto me as what to write or what to excuse I am altogether ignorant. Whereas you sent unto me, willing me to confess the truth, and so obtain your favour by such a one whom you know to be mine ancient and professed enemy, I no sooner received the message by him than I rightly conceived your meaning. And if, as you say, confessing truth indeed may procure my safety, I shall with all willingness and duty perform your command. But let not your Grace ever imagine that your poor wife will ever be brought to acknowledge a fault where not so much as thought thereof proceeded. And to speak a truth, never prince had wife more loyal in all duty and in all true affection than you have found in Anne Boleyn, with which name and place could willingly have contented myself, as if God and your Grace's pleasure had been so pleased. Neither did I at any time so far forge myself in my exaltation or received queenship, but that I always looked for such an alteration as now I find, for the ground of my preferment being on no surer foundation than your Grace's fancy. The least alteration I knew was fit and sufficient to draw that fancy to some other subject. You have chosen me from a low estate to be your queen and companion, far beyond my desert or desire. If then you found me worthy of such honour, good your Grace, let not any light fancy or bad counsel of mine enemies withdraw your princely favour from me. Neither let that stain, that unworthy stain of a disloyal heart towards your good Grace, ever cast so foul a blot on your most dutiful wife and the infant princess, your daughter. Try me, good King, but let me have a lawful trial, and let not my sworn enemies sit as my accusers and judges. Yes, let me receive an open trial, for my truth shall fear no open shame. Then shall you see either mine innocency cleared, your suspicion and conscience satisfied, the ignominy and slander of the world stopped, or my guilt openly declared, so that whatsoever God or you may determine of me, your grace may be freed from an open censure, and mine offence being so lawfully proved, your grace is at liberty, both before God and man, not only to execute worthy punishment on me as an unlawful wife, but to follow your affection already settled on that party, for whose sake I am now as I am, whose name I could some good while since have pointed unto, your grace being not ignorant of my suspicion therein. But if you have already determined of me, and that not only my death, but an infamous slander must bring you the enjoying of your desired happiness, then I desire of God that he will pardon your great sin therein, and likewise mine enemies, the instruments thereof, that he will not call you to a strict account for your unprincely and cruel usage of me at his general judgment seat, where both you and myself must shortly appear, and in whose judgment I doubt not, whatsoever the world may think of me, mine innocence shall be openly known and sufficiently cleared. My last and only request shall be that myself may only bear the burthen of your grace's displeasure, and that it may not touch the innocent souls of those poor gentlemen who, as I understand, are likewise in strait imprisonment for my sake. If ever I have found favour in your sight, if ever the name of Anne Boleyn hath been pleasing to your ears, then let me obtain this request, and I will so leave to trouble your grace any further with mine earnest prayers to the Trinity, to have your grace in his good keeping, and to direct you in all your actions. Your most loyal and ever faithful wife, Anne Boleyn, from my doleful prison, the Tower, this 6th of May. Now that is a beautiful letter. Some historians and authors believe it to be a forgery, whereas others believe that it rings very true of Anne Boleyn. Sandra Vasoli, who has written a book called Anne Boleyn's Letter from the Tower, in which she examines this letter, believes that Anne Boleyn did indeed write it. And Sandy actually wrote a very detailed article for the Anne Boleyn files on this letter. So I'll give you a link to read her thoughts on it. It's a very, very interesting article. And I'd love to know what you think as well. But don't be confused by the way that the letter ends with Anne Boleyn. There was no standardised spelling at the time, and in fact, Boleyn and Boleyn, there are so many spellings of Boleyn in the records. And as I've explained before in talks that I've done, people just use the different spellings of the same word in the same sentence even. I mean, I can be reading a document, a 16th century document, and I can see the word king spelled 2 or 3 different ways in the same sentence. K-I-N-G-E, K-I-N-G, K-Y-N-G-E, K-Y-N-G, all just, within words of each other, because they just didn't worry about spelling. So don't get sort of fixated on that. The most common spelling actually of Boleyn at the time was the way we spell it today, B-O-L-E-Y-N, but it was spelled many different ways. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on this letter. Whatever the truth of it, it is a beautiful letter and rings very true of what the Queen would have been feeling at that time. I'll be back tomorrow with another Fall of Anne Boleyn event for you. I do hope you're enjoying is not really the right word, but yeah, enjoying this examination of the events that led up to that awful day in 1536. You can subscribe to this channel by clicking there. You can hit the bell to be notified of videos as they go live, but I'll see you tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.